Hey guys, I'm going to try to keep this as simple as possible, but as you guys can see on the screen right now, I'm using Icy Wolf, Santis, Mary, and Nephalia. All these characters are free to play friendly. Nephalia being free to play friendly too because you can reroll as a new player. If you're really too far in the game, you spend a couple $100 or whatnot, and you still don't have a Nephalia, you won't be able to run this team because I couldn't find a replacement for Nephalia. Very, very unfortunate because of how that team is going to operate. But starting from the top to bottom, I guess Icy Wolf is going to be there to provide the counter. Mary is going to be there to provide the invincibility. Santa is going to be there for the poison, and then Nephalia is going to be there to clear the imps and the trash waves. Another thing to keep in mind is that is a very important factor is that your Nephalia needs to be slower than the boss. So the base speed of the boss is 140, so my Nephalia is at 129, but at the same time, it needs to be faster than the waves, waves one and waves two. So mine's 129. I don't know the bare minimum, the base speed of waves one and two, but just take note that it needs to be slower than the boss, but yet faster than waves one and two. And yeah, that will be the most important rule here because again, we want the imps to survive. So if you didn't know already, if there's an imp alive, the boss takes 50% damage if he uses his ultimate and dishes that damage out to your team. But we're mitigating that by using Mary's invincibility. Mary's invincibility procs perfectly, it times perfectly with the boss's ultimate, making this a team that you can't really replace anybody on this team to make it better because you need the counter from the Wolf, and with Wolf you can't use a William because with William's counter, if the target ally that the counter is applied on gets picked and it's Nephalia, Nephalia will get a defense buff from William, and from there the Nephalia has a chance to clear all of the imps, and that's not what we want. The whole purpose of this is so the imps are alive once the boss does his first ultimate attack, right? So once we clear the imps, the first imps, there's going to be two left. It's either going to be two or three imps left. And then once we get into round four here, we're going to proc invincibility. He's going to take 50% damage, and we're going to mitigate that damage, as you can see here. And the Nephalia is going to follow up and kill the rest of the imps. Once you hit the run 5 right here, it's all about Santis landing poisons. You have an A5 Santis, your runs are going to be faster than mine, and Nephalia is going to follow up and kill the boss. I usually average like 6 rounds, around a minute and like 40, a minute 45 seconds per run. And if your Santis is ascended 5, you probably average around 5 turn clears and maybe around like a minute and 30, a minute 25-second clears. So it's a pretty good team. It took a while since I didn't have a William and I didn't have a Gongello to run the poison comp. I've been running like a 2 or 3 minute team for the past month or past like 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, and I just needed a faster team. So there's a team that I came up with. I think it's one of the best teams out there right now that I have seen besides the poison comp. Obviously, the poison comp is extremely OP, but yeah, I'll go ahead and show you guys my stats and we'll go from there. So before I start talking about the characters, guys, I just want to say once again that Santis cannot be replaced because of Santis' skill 100% trigger rate for the poison. Mary cannot be replaced with Celestia King because they had different cooldowns on their invincibility. Nephalia cannot be replaced with any other AoE damage nukers because I couldn't find one that can only kill 3 imps or 4 imps. It's either the Mulhax is going to kill all the imps, or the Sierra is only going to proc the passive, and it's not going to line up perfectly with the imps. Or if you're using a Hydrisia is not going to be able to clear the waves. So Nephalia seems to be the perfect one. I couldn't find a replacement for her, so you have to have Nephalia. And in terms of Ice Wolf, you cannot replace Ice Wolf with William. Again, because with Williams passive, or not passive, but the counter buff, the target ally with the defense buff, if it procs on Nephalia, Nephalia's gonna have a chance to kill all of the imps, and that would be a big problem for the team because then there will be no 50% free damage for the boss. So just take note of that, and yeah, let's look at the stats. So I'm just gonna quickly glance over my stats for my units that I'm currently using. So let's look at Ice Wolf here, guys. Ice Wolf could be a level 1, a level 20. Just make sure that he goes first or second. And I just threw all of my shitty Raider gear at him. And yeah, he goes first and he goes second, and then he does his job. So nothing too crazy. Here are the overall stats if you really wanted to see. Moving on to, let's look at Nephalia. My Nephalia has 4200 attack, 252 crit damage, and 102% crit rate. Most important thing again is to make sure that she can clear waves 1 and 2 and clears with imps, but at the same time be slower than the boss, so slower than 140 but faster than waves 1 and 2. So 129, that's what my Nephalia is at, and that's working perfectly fine. In terms of Ascension, mine is Ascended 3. If you don't have her Ascended 2, your stat requirement is going to be a lot higher, so just take note of that. Obviously, if you have her Ascended 6, then your stats are going to be lower in terms of equipment, okay? So obviously, glyphs are maxed out. And Santa's here, we look at Santa's. Santa's on the curse set. You can farm a curse set in Scenario Stage 10, Party of Threes, or Queens if you really have to. And you want to make sure that she's tanky enough, so around 50k in HP and 50% focus with over 100 successful and consecutive runs. 50% hasn't failed me yet, so I guess if you could shoot a little bit higher than 50% focus, yet still obtaining like 15k-ish HP, go for it, even better. She doesn't need to be Ascended 5. Obviously, if you have Ascended 5, your runs are going to be a lot better, a lot faster than mine, probably about like 5 or 10 seconds. But she could be A0 if you don't have her Ascended. That's perfectly fine. And you can fuse her, right? You can fuse her, you can summon her, and yeah, just get lucky, I guess. I guess you can also get lucky. So moving on to the last but not least, we have Mary. Mary is going to be just tanky. You can use a 4-star, 5-star Mary. Just make sure that your Mary is tanky enough. So around, I would say 15 KHP is a good number, and that's the only stat that you really need. In terms of skill ups, you want to make sure that her third skill is maxed out. That's the only skill that she needs to have maxed out, just because the 5 turn is going to land perfectly right before the boss's ultimate skill. Okay, the other skills don't need to be maxed out. And let's see here. And also the glyphs, you don't need to max out the glyphs. You don't have to farm a single glyph for marriage. Again, if you don't farm the glyphs, just make sure she's tanky enough, so around 15k HP. And yeah, that is the stats for my team, guys. It's not that crazy. The only crazy stat that I have is not really that crazy, but that I have is on Nephalia, which is being able to one-shot the wave. So just make sure that you have a one-shot Nephalia and you're good to go. Now, in terms of the spell skills, guys, I only run defense break. You don't run you don't want to run any skill that is going to apply a buff on Nephalia. So same situation as William. William procs Nephalia is going to grant her a defense buff. So you don't want to run any other skills. I mean, you can use Fireball, you can use Stun, but if you really want to use another skill, you can bring in Revive, and that's perfectly fine. That's probably going to lower your runs by a couple seconds, but hey, if you want to run it, go for it. Why not, right? But yes. Alright guys, that is going to be the end of the video, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you guys like this team comp, and let me know down below if you're actually going to build this team. I think it's a pretty sweet team for what rarity this team actually is, and that everybody can achieve it, and it's relatively fast, it's consistent. So yeah, let me know down below, guys, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.